Welcome to the Comp Scoring and Ranking System tutorial. Today I'm going to give you a brief tutorial on how to use the Comp Scoring and Ranking System. First, once the spreadsheet is downloaded and open, we want to get some data into the system. There's a couple ways to do this. The first of which is clicking on the Add Data button here. So if you clicked on that, you would go to the dialog box and you could go search for an Excel or .csv file that you have with sales data incorporated into it. But what I would recommend doing to expedite this process is if you go to the spreadsheet that you have that data in, highlight the data that you have, copy it, and paste it into the C1 field here under the Data tab. So you have Menu and Data. Under the Data tab, you paste that in there. And you can see all the data here has just been brought right in. That's a little bit quicker of a way to do it. Either way is fine. And what I would recommend is keeping your data sets probably under about 50 sales. Consider that we're looking at comparables here, so hopefully you have under 50. Anything over 50, 60, 70 kind of slows the system down a little bit. Okay, so now in the category field, these are the actual column headers that I just pasted in. So as soon as you paste them in, the spreadsheet reads them. So the first thing that I want to do under category is I want to select the latitude field. So in my data set that I brought in here, if you can see down here at the end, I have a latitude field. So that's pretty simple. I'll just hit the drop down here, scroll down the latitude, do the same thing for longitude. And this is going to help me search by distance, score my comparables by distance. Now, if you don't have latitude and longitude, that's okay. The rest of the system will work. Just leave these blank. All right, the other scoring fields here, these other columns here, these are variables that you can select. So, for instance, on mine, I'm going to use square footage as one of my variables. I'm going to use stories as one of my variables, and I'm going to use age as one of my variables. Now you can use as many or as little as you want here. I'm just going to start with 3 just to get going here. Now next in the value column, I'm going to put in the value for the subject. So I'm using a sample property here, and I'm just going to put in the latitude of that property, and I'm going to put in the longitude of that property. Once again, if you don't have latitude and longitude, if you're not using distance as a ranking, then don't worry about that part. The square footage of this house is 2,784 square feet. It's a 2-story and it's 35 years old. Okay, and one important factor here, these values need to be numeric. The comp scoring and ranking system runs calculations in order to score properties, score comparables. So these need to be numeric. If there's any text in these fields, even in the data part here, then you're going to have problems. So just make sure that we're just working with numeric fields. And for the most part in appraisal, that is what we're doing. Okay, the next column here is the weight. So now I'm going to determine what do I think is the most important factor, the next most important, and so on and so forth. And this weighted value needs to equal 100%. So I'm just going to throw some numbers in here. 40% for distance, which is what we're calculating here. Give 30 to square footage, 15 to stories, and 15 to age. And this needs to equal 100%. You can see down here at the bottom it'll calculate that. Now, you can change these to whatever you want. You can come back and fiddle with these more after you run, after you get some results. That's entirely up to you. So now I'm going to go ahead and click on the Generate Results tab button. Okay, now as you can see in the score and the distance, it's done some calculations here. It's scored all these comparables that I put in, highest to lowest. So 87.5 here is the best score, and it goes down. And then it also put in the distance from the subject in there as well. So now what I can do in my, I'm just going to scoot this out so we can read this a little bit better. But so here's all the properties that I put in here, and I can see, well, This is one of my best comps. As you can see, it's similar in square footage. It's a two-story like my property was, pretty close in age. So these so it's going to give these top comparables are probably going to be the best ones for me to use. Now I can go back and fiddle with this and I'll say, well, I really want some properties that are closer, and I don't really care as much about stories and age. I'm just concerned about home comparables that are close by. So now, still taking into consideration the square footage was given ample amount of weight. Now, I've got comparables that are closer in distance. As you can see, some of these down here, 2-3 miles away. So it's giving me comps that are closer in distance to the subject property. And you can go back and forth with this if latitude or if distance is not an issue, and some of these other factors were more important. You can go in here. You can go back in and add another variable. If I wanted to add acreage, 1.46 acres, and I think that's an important factor. I can go back in there and do that, and now I'm going to get some comps that are more similar in acreage to the subject property, and you can play around with that. Obviously, you can print these as you run variables or run different scenarios. You can print those off and continue to play around with this till you get certain numbers that work best for you. If you have any questions about the comp scoring and ranking system, feel free to email me at compscoring@appraisals-first.com. That's compscoring@appraisals-first.com. And if you haven't downloaded the comp scoring and ranking system, please go to Alamode's Win Total Marketplace to get that. Thank you for watching this tutorial.